road record for the regular season, 8-0. It's a franchise record. That's incredible. I can remember when we went 7-1 back in 2014 at home, and it was like, hey, just win every game at home. Like, that's the thing, right? That was the conversation. We were like 500 on the road. It was like, there you go. Undefeated on the road's crazy, but we did that. And now it's on to the battle for the 1 seed, Lions-Vikings next week. So let's get it started. Welcome, ready to a video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're back with another initial reactions video. Speaking on another win, which feels great, but I want to keep this one a little bit shorter. One, it's just kind of late, man. I'm a little bit tired. You know what I mean? But I want to get this in, though, because I do think it's necessary to do kind of an initial reactions video to this, because we may get less of the recap of this game as we kind of focus our attention onto the Minnesota Vikings pretty quickly. But there probably has to be some sort of breakdown video at some point this week to some extent, because there was a lot of good, but there was also a lot of what the heck was that, especially on the defensive side of the ball, until the second half, where I thought they made some really big-time adjustments, which I think that we can actually point out with some of the clips that I saved just from grabbing a few of them from this game, and I can show a couple of those on the screen, just snippets of them because, you know, copyright, but I can show a few things there. But let's start off with some of the good, then we'll get to some of the defensive side of the ball. Okay, we'll just split it like that. Offensively, I said this during the live stream on the Bleacher Report show, but I know I titled one of my recent videos this. Is this the Lions' best passing attack ever? Certifies, like maybe it is. Like this might be one of the best passing attacks the Lions have ever had. I think definitely under the Jared Goff era, it for sure is. And this was another step towards that. I mean, obviously statistically it was great. 3 touchdowns, high completion percentage, 300 yards. And this wasn't like a bad secondary. This was actually one of the better secondaries in football. Statistically, 6th passer rating allowed. They were really good in all categories. 3rd and lowest yards per game allowed at 180. They allowed 300 in this game. Some of that's kind of situation. You know, this is such a high scoring game, but the point is 64% completion percentage. This was a good pass defense, and the Lions were incredible throwing the football into this game. So that's the first thing. First and foremost, they were great there. And coming in without Charvarius Ward, I thought was massive right before the game. Congratulations. Sounds like he's going to have a kid, but him being out for this game I thought was huge because Isaac Yiadom has to step in now to start. He's not a bad cornerback either, but it's definitely a downgrade with him and Renardo Green, but that's where they're tough. They take away the middle of the field incredibly well. Fred Warner's excellent. Even D. Winters, even though it's their backup for Dre Greenlaw, he's an excellent coverage piece. Hufunga's an absolute problem. By the way, I just saw the hype for Fred Warner. He was fired up for this one, man. They wanted to beat us. They wanted to beat us. So I loved it. I love the energy of this game. It was fantastic. They have a good safety position with Mustafa and Brown. Like, this is a really good back end, and the Lions threw the football incredibly well in this game. So to me, this just more so clarified that this is the best passing attack that maybe I've ever seen as a Lions fan. Number one, it's incredibly versatile, right? It's super versatile. There's so many different pieces that get involved, but it's been the emergence of a couple of those guys. Of course, all year it's been Jameson Williams. We did the show like that on Bleacher Report. We talked about like reasons to believe the Lions can win it all. One of the answers for me was Jameson Williams. Simply, it's like what Jameson Williams has become, his ability to go win one-on-one, the route tree expansion, the stats so far this season. His grades against man coverage were excellent. Coming into the game, he was like 10 receptions on 12 targets. He is one of the best man coverage beaters in football this season. So you have that, and we saw him again show up again in today's game with a really strong game, and he's on his way to 1,000 yards. That's amazing. But also Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Jahmyr Gibbs has really evolved over the last few weeks into being a real part of this passing attack. Like, it's not just, hey, he catches a screen, he does things after the catch. Like, he's a real part of the passing game. And I think the injury to Khalif Raymond opened the door for someone to kind of step into his shoes a little bit. And I think Gibbs has helped there in certain ways be able to fill that role. But also, he's just very involved now. And the timing right now between Goff and Gibbs is the best it's been, right? We saw in this game 2 big plays. I think of the angle route in man coverage, the timing there for a huge play. Of course, he's involved in a lot of other things. I think of the flat route where it should be 4 yards and he picks up 12 because that's what he's capable of after the catch. That's always been Gibbs. He's always been that, but it's the timing for me. I mean, think about the amount of conversions we had on 3rd down against zone coverage. That's what stands out to me. The decision-making for Jared Goff. Goff's decision-making right now as the Lions quarterback is as good as it's been. Did he miss some throws? Yes, but his decision-making as a whole is as good as it's been. I think he fades a little bit in the pocket sometimes, which I don't love. Now, in fairness, there's not much that can really be done here, but moving out of the pocket does kind of cut the field in half, and he can't get back to Laporta. That being said, though, even on a play like this where he doesn't throw the ball, still don't hate the decision, because if he does, this is not in a good spot. This ball could absolutely be a turnover, so just feeling the defender and not forcing this, but maybe a throwaway is better. Though the trade-off is you get some scoot Goff, and he makes some things happen, and he's extending plays, and he gets some of that stuff, which we typically don't get, which is pretty awesome as well. And he's very confident. But man, the way that he is seeing the field right now, it's ever been like this. Like, he's seeing the field so well. He's finding reads across the field. He's seeing it like that. He's getting through coverages. He's not getting stuck on route concepts if it's a wrong coverage. Like, if you have a man beater and they go to zone, he's not getting stuck on that man concept, just kind of hoping it opens. He's immediately getting off things. even to the point where the Laporta pass that was incomplete in the back of the end zone, like the read was good. It was cover 3 by the defense, which is another tendency of San Fran to play that in those spots, to play zone in those spots, which they did against us, red 2, cover 3. They played zone coverage, and for Goff to say, get off St. Brown, go behind him, and try to hit the back of the end zone, even though it was incomplete in that spot, maybe needs to be a little bit earlier, it was still a great read, and he had a lot of those. You had a Tampa 2 pickup to Sam Laporta underneath. You had the deep dig route to Jameson Williams on third down as well. And I expected that we'd see more zone coverage because San Fran does that based on team. Like against the Rams, they put a lot more zone on third down. So I expected we'd see that because they wouldn't want to be picked apart by easy man coverage beaters. And because last time we played San Fran, they got us off the field in a crucial 4th and 3 in zone coverage. And for the Lions to constantly find answers against zone comes back to pass pro and decision making and timing. And all of those things were clicking. A lot of that comes back to pass pro, but it's also decision making. And again, Goff's decision making has been just incredible to this point. I mean, I can think of the smallest examples, and they stand out to me because we've done these film videos after games, watched all 22 of every one of these games that we've done. I think since Goff has been here. So when they stand out to me when I see things like last week where he just finds a check down across the field, even though he's on the left side of the pocket, even though he moved out of the pocket towards left, he goes back right and finds Vaki, and you're like, that's pretty awesome because sometimes he just wouldn't find that. Like he would never even look back over there, and he's seeing the entire thing. He's feeling the entire play. I think about the Laporta seam shot in this game, right? Where it's like, hey, cover 3 blitz, and how fast he's just immediately to like hit the seam, bam. And he's done that a few times. He's had that same throw a few times this year. Jacksonville, he had the same throw right up the seam to Sam Laporta, I think it was. And a shout out to a couple of other things here. First off, personnel, 13 personnel, get an extra backer. They bring the safety. Now you got Laporta on a linebacker. You love that matchup. And then shout out to Jahmyr Gibbs with the pass protection here. But using personnel sets to their advantages, they've done that all year. It's fantastic. This throw was money. Right? So we're getting that. The throw to Allen Robinson, it was like, oh, single high safety. You got the linebacker out wide with the running back. It's man coverage. One-on-one, just put it up immediately to Robinson. Great route by Robinson. He kind of like dropped back into old school Allen Robinson. The body control, the hands, the release, the ball's on point there. That's what their Goff has excelled. And then the timing. It's the timing on some of the routes that have clearly gotten better. Like we used to try to throw wheel routes with Goff, and they seemed to kind of never work. It was like, oh man, he threw it over his head. He missed him on that play. There's something off with this. And we've still had those. Like we've had those things happen even this year. Jameson, he's expected back shoulder. Jameson's running upfield. And there's some of that connection that needs to be there where I think there's still growth that needs to take place, especially with guys like J-Mo, that kind of thing. On routes like that, we know St. Brown has that connection. And I think that's where you see routes like him working out of the backfield on kind of a wheel route. Goff immediately seeing linebacker work over top, so he goes to him. But instead of leading him where he feels the linebacker, he's like, all right, I'm going to get out quickly, kind of pull you back a little bit, put it on you, and then you get the first down. And that's a spot where in the past, Goff may not throw that, or he'd throw it in front of him and it'd be incomplete. That's where he's playing at his best. Like, this is at an all-time high for Jared Goff within this Lions offense. And to me, it's a huge reason why, tied along with great pass protection. Decker got beat a couple times today, Sewell got a hold. Great pass protection for the most part. They've handled stunts much better over the last few weeks. Crazy versatility in the pass game where guys are just emerging. And finally, Jared Goff's decision-making. It's been excellent. He tied along with the fact that the Lions were very straightforward. I thought they would be in this game. Hey, we're going to run the football. I think it was pretty straightforward. We're going to run the football. You put 7 offensive linemen on the field and you're running the football, that's pretty straightforward. That's what they did. Gibbs, it was fantastic, but man, the offensive line, like the run blocking of the offensive line, just, there were so many runs where it was like so patient, and they were able to kind of just allow it to set up and then work behind it. Craig Reynolds, like we found a lot of success. I love the fact that they didn't have Gibbs getting like 40 carries or 30 carries again in this game. It was 18 for 117. That's a great number. Let Craig get 7 of those carries. Get Jamar Jefferson get involved. I wish he would have had the touchdown, but let those guys take some stress off of Gibbs, especially when he's going to get involved in the passing game like he is. So offensively, there's a lot of good to talk about. We could talk about more throughout the week, but there's a lot of good there. Now, defensively, it was a real struggle coming out. And there's a lot of, the issue is that there's, same thing with offense, there's every play's individual, right? I can't just say one thing was a problem and it's like, oh, that's why. There's a lot of things. Number one, we had too many missed tackles. Watching it back really briefly, kind of flying through it. Too many missed tackles, right? We had opportunities. Josh Pascal in the backfield, Jalen Reese-Maybin on the screen. That would have been a 3rd and 9. We missed some tackles. George Kittle broke some tackles. Part of that is they're really good there. You think early in this game, they hit us with the outside horizontal runs, and, that's where they're good. When Debo's in the backfield, they're tough to tackle. They're a really good right after catch team. We know that as Lions fans. We understand that. So there were times where it's like, all right, I understand, but we did miss a few too many tackles in this game, and we let a few things happen. We had some bad flags as well. Brian Branch had a bad flag. We had a flag in the end zone that offset things. We had an offside call, which was a bad flag as well, and we weren't really putting them in positions where they had to play behind the chains constantly. You had the flag also on the holding on Muhammad, which would positive also threw them behind the chain. So we had some bad flags early in this game. But defensively, it was a variety of things. I loved the fact that there was real adjustments in the second half. Like in the second half when they went to man coverage, there was like, hey, second level linebackers, switch things off in man coverage, right? Don't try to work through all the traffic, because it felt like when watching it back, and I'll be able to see closer when I watch the All-22, that the Lions were the approach of, we're going to be aggressive. We are stopping the run. So they put a safety in the box a lot. Their linebackers' first step were constantly upfield, and it was like, yo, we're stopping the run. Like, stop the run first and foremost. Safeties play a little bit more aggressive, and I love that game plan. Now, I didn't think we were constantly aggressive from the safety position, which was the problem. You know, you think about the big play, you got Kirby bailing way too far, and they do the half roll, and that's what they kind of did to us a few times, and it pulled Kirby back, and they hit the big play. That's the downside of that. You don't really have the underneath presence when everybody's playing the run fake, so San Fran took advantage of that. That's where the really toughest play action, but the Lions seemingly were pretty clear in a sense of like, okay, we're not going to be beat by the run game. Like, we're going to stop the run. We're going to get upfield against the run. And that's fine, but it led to some issues. You know, we saw early Anthony Pittman, a lot of movement by this team, right? You get an underneath, kind of a beneath, like a short motion pre-snap, it's a fast motion. You get the beneath look, and Pittman drives down, and all of a sudden he gives up a vacant zone behind him. And Pittman hasn't played much defensively, but you got him out there, and we've seen that over the last few weeks. I think about this 1st down and 5 play after the offside. I mean, just look at how messy this is. Kirby Joseph is the player here to circle because he's actually on Kyle Juszczyk. But as you see, when Kyle works to lead block and then he cuts back the other way, Kirby can't get back over top in a spot without picking up the crossing route in front of him. Well, the problem with that is Amik has to work through all this traffic because the Lions are flowing so hard to stop the run that when Amik has to turn and work through the traffic, he gives up a whole bunch of ground. So now Kirby picks it up. Instead of like switching this thing off, Kirby picks it up. Now the underneath route's wide open, and they end up picking up a touchdown out of that. So little things like that, they use the movement, they use the flow of the offense. Just motion well. They put Terrion in 2 spots, a couple spots in motion. You know, the first one being the 3rd and 7, where they motion across. We're in man coverage. It's a 3rd down and 7. It's like, okay, we're gonna get off the field here, right? They're in this trips, this bunch look, and it's a simple rub route that turns into a massive play, but if, you know, there's no motion pre-snap, there's probably better spacing where Terrion gives more ground and he's not getting bumped up on Brian Branch. But because the motion, he doesn't pay attention to that, so they run right into each other. You get the big play, and we saw start the second half, the Lions took Terrion out of the game. They put Vildor in there, and I think we've seen that with Terrion at times this year where it's like, okay, some things are just happening fast. Like the Josh Allen game, plastering guys downfield. He wasn't really doing it that well. And seemingly in this game, like San Fran was like, okay, it's not just like getting beat in coverage, because I think Terrion does a lot of good in straight man, but it's things like that, right? Early in the year was anticipating routes and route breaks, and I thought he got way better at that. And now it's like, okay, teams like this, they're putting you into all these spots where there's so much movement, and you're not thinking about everything. You're not thinking about the whole picture. You're thinking about your guy, and you get caught in a rub route because of that, and they play off of that as a young player. So we've seen stuff like that happen. You think about the touchdown scramble for Brock Purdy. We go to quarters coverage in that spot. I don't love the contain here for Chris Smith. That has continued to kind of be an issue for us. We got a great throw by Purdy, but once again, this is one of those spots where Jalen's back into the lineup. The Lions are seemingly going to some sort of like quarters coverage, so Jalen gets kind of naturally picked on the play. You have the vertical route. Jalen's having to work inside, outside. Now he's underneath the wheel route, and at this point, you have no vertical help because the outside corner was already pulled out of the play. If you're playing the run and you're playing your safeties aggressively, which I said I want to do, is play safeties aggressively. Well, now you have no over top help unless that cornerback can bail out and get back over top. So you don't have any help now because your safety's too aggressive. So they did a good job. They took advantage of what we were in coverage-wise. And that is one thing that I don't love for Lions. I feel like when they go to quarters, they're very predictable. Like, meaning you can see that they're in quarters when they're playing cover 4. It constantly feels like that. So you kind of gave them the tell just pre-snap, like, yeah, we're going into some cover 4. And unfortunately, that's one of those spots where you almost need Jalen to just be aware and then carry the running back out of the play. If there's no under threat, man, just carry that thing vertically, and he just lets it get behind him, just kind of just spot dropping into his own here rather than carrying this thing vertically. So it is a good scheme beater, but it's also part of the reason I liked man coverage. I like making tight window throws and throwing off timing, and unfortunately, this is the complete opposite of throwing off timing. This is letting them stay on time outside of creating some pressure because of the fact that it's just kind of a simple coverage beater. In the second half, I thought they made some really good adjustments. Number one, we got to see the aggressive safety play right off the bat, even on a completion for Kirby Joseph, so we got to see that. I just think that it wasn't until a little bit later when they ticked it up even more where he got the interceptions, and it was like, yo, make him make tight window throws. Look, the one thing that was going to beat you with San Fran was very clear. Their passing attack was clear in this sense. make them beat you level 3 and allow them the opportunity to try to beat you way over top, but don't allow them to beat you over the middle of the field in that intermediate range, because they will beat you there. That's where they play. Everything's an in-breaker. So you have to take that away, and you have to throw off timing. You have to take the first read away. And the way the Lions did that was twofold. It was man coverage, especially when they would press and they could slow down timing. It was blitzing in the second half. They got a little bit more aggressive. And thirdly, it was, hey, we're going to have our safeties play aggressive. Like, you have to step in front of these routes. You can't just give these things up. And I think the second half earlier was like, okay, we're going towards that. And then we gave it the big play where Kirby just bails and he's held by the half roll. And they did little things like that. San Fran had the little half rolls a lot in this game. They did little things like that were super creative. Shout out to them. Kyle Shanahan is a smart offensive mind. But you go to some of these plays in the second half and the Lions handled it much better. The linebackers were like, switch everything off in man, right? If he comes in here, you pass it off. And then if your guy stays in the block, attack the quarterback, right? Don't stand in no man's land, just go. Attack the quarterback. That felt like the adjustment. And when I watched through some of these second half plays, like, there was good awareness. Terrion working through the traffic here. You got the linebackers passing things off where it's like, okay, Kyle Juszczyk is here. Now he breaks the opposite way, and Jack Campbell picks it up. So now it passes off from one linebacker to the other so that the Lions aren't in no man's land there. They can pick it up. You go back to the half roll plays where they did find some success, and it was typically with Kittle, because they would just like have him break one way and then break back across the field the other way. And that is difficult to cover. So they knew they were getting man in the second half, and that was their way to try to find a beater, was like, we're going to try this half roll stuff. So the Lions really only option for that was like, hey, get pressure, right? Don't allow him to get to those looks. But then when he did go over the middle of the field, the man coverage, which I thought coming in we'd play a lot of man. I wanted to see the Lions play man. I wanted to see them play aggressive. And they did in a sense. They put a safety in the box a lot, right? They did some blitzing in the second half, but I wanted to see them play that style, was be aggressive. And they were aggressive, but the man coverage heavily in the second half, it took out their offense, because they're not a team that likes to live in tight window throws. If they have spacing, they will kill you. If it's tight window throws, they look completely different. We saw in this game with multiple interceptions, could have been a lot more. Tight window throws were just not a great answer. And to me, it stems back from what the second level's adjustments were, because they were passing everything off. I mean, I would like to see this faster, but they were handling it well. Jalen Reeves-Mabe and Jack Campbell, they were handling it well. And then they were saying, okay, now make these tight window throws into the second level. Guys like Levi come through a little bit. And again, it wasn't necessarily perfect, right? We still gave up some completions, right? If he was beat, Brian Branch was beat, but we weren't giving them wide open reads. We were still making them make contested grabs, contested throws, and that's what you have to do. And that's where I think it started, because the Lions were no longer giving up those wide open players. Even times they would sometimes double team guys on accident, but they were at least covering somebody because they were just switching everything off underneath. All this eye candy in the backfield, we are switching it off. We're not going to give you these breakdowns because we're going to switch everything. And then when you constantly live there, the Lions have shown they have the DBs to make that work. And again, they did. Meek came through with a big third down stop. Some of these is just, hey, the play extends too far, right? Brian Branch's working this way, and then he's got to cut back and work that way. You got a single eye safety. That's a good matchup beater. But that was the way that you wanted to play if you were the Lions. And then finally, the second interception that really sealed things was, again, cover 3, but Kirby gave no depth. He just planted himself. He starts deep up to about 16 yards, which is deep. 15 plus is deep for a free safety, but he doesn't go anywhere. He plants himself. He doesn't drift. He just stands there, and he bites on the in-breaker, and he took that away. So I think for the Lions, it was really good adjustments in the second half to just like, hey, make them make tight window throws, be aggressive in the safety position, more man coverage versus what we did. I didn't love some of the early zone coverage. Some of it was just like, hey, even in man, they had good scheme beaters. They did good things offensively. But I think we showed that we could adjust, and we did adjust in this game, and to me, that was clear when watching it back just briefly and watching it live. Now, I think it plays out by just looking at how the second half played out, and that's the game that you wanted to make them play all along, and I just don't think the Lions got to that soon enough. And credit to San Fran, because they were like, these are weaknesses, let's go at this, let's make Terrion work with motion, and then we'll do the play, and let's have all this flow. They're going to be playing the run heavily, let's work off of that, let's get the guys open. And you had some of that where you're like, oh snap, there are guys open because we're breaking down here, until it's like, yo, don't get caught in traffic, we're switching everything. Terrion comes off the field for a second. Fielder, we're going to you, right? You have to be aware of everything that's going on. Pittman got beat one play. If we can't have that happen, we're going to crank the aggression. We want Purdy playing on his heels, and it changed everything. And I think it was a really good adjustment. But offensively, they continue to be fantastic. And Jake Bates missed an extra point. I didn't even see the mixed extra point. Got one blocked. Not great. We got things to work on. And kickoff coverage. But again, you can see how good Debo is. That being said, though, the kicker battle was a position to watch. We said coming in, matchups to watch. I had never done it. I put both kickers on. I don't think I've ever done that. I put Bates and I put Moody. And I would say Bates won this battle, and it was a major difference in this game. So with that being said, man, it is a good win. It's nice to get this win over this team, and now we're able to just focus on a big one. Lions, Vikings, and I'm fired up for it, man. I'm fired up for this one. Sunday Night Football, and then it's off to the playoffs. So all good ahead of us, man. I'm excited about it. A lot of good opportunities in front of us, but let's embrace the fact that the Lions won every game on the road in the regular season. That is special, and I think that we can't overlook how special that really is. 14-2. Someone said it in the chat, like, hey, think back to the Patricia years, right? Like we were doing content over here during that. We're witnessing a team win 14 games. We are in like the golden era of Lions football. So let's enjoy it. You know what I mean? Let's have fun with it, good and bad. Let's enjoy this ride because it's special. So I'm going to leave it right there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.